Hi everyone. In our African tradition, if you want to grow as a human being, you don't need to necessarily listen to only your parents for you to grow. But you can listen to even neighbors, you can listen to relatives, whosoever that talks to you, and you feel there's something constructive out of what he or she is saying. And that expands. It goes to the family, it goes to the community, and then it goes even to the nation. If we want to grow, there are some things we can pick from our neighbors, and then we see what we can learn, and then bring into our own house, bring into our own family, and then bring into our own country. But today I'm going to talk from the context of our country, that is South Sudan to be exact. The East African region is big, and then the African continent is big, and then the world is so big. But today I'm going to talk about the East African region. Because South Sudan is the youngest country in the world, and that definitely translates that it's the youngest country in the East African region. And that would only give us an advantage of saying we have so many things to learn from. Because all these countries have grown through systems, and then they have grown through times. They have passed some test of times. So it is now upon us to look and say, what is it in Uganda that we can see? What is it in Kenya? What is it in Tanzania? What is it in Rwanda? What is it in Congo that we can learn from? And today I'm going to just point a few things in these countries that I've mentioned, in the East African region, like around 3 or 4 countries. And what I'm going to pick is the foundation that these countries had set from their independence. And up to now, you see that what they did after independence is influencing how they run their affairs up to now. So as South Sudan, we are 13 years after independence. It is wise for us to check what we are going to do and what we are going to set as the foundation of this country. Straight away, let's look at Uganda. When you look at Uganda's politics, from independence, of course, there was so much hope, and then people are like, the country is going to rise, and then all things are going to be okay. They were being oppressed by the colonialists and all these kind of things. In 1962, Uganda gets independence. Obote becomes the prime minister. Mutesa too becomes the president. By 1966, there was already a rift, and then Obote overthrows the Kabaka. He exiles the Kabaka, and then there was already a constitutional crisis in Uganda. That was by 1966. Amin became Obote's student, not in class. He learned that you can oust someone through that process, informally. By 1971, Obote was ousted by Amin in 1971. By 1979, the same sequence continues. Obote was exiled in Tanzania. The Tanzanian soldiers and then the Ugandan exilees in Tanzania move into Uganda, and then they oust Idi Amin. And the period between 79 and 80, when Uganda conducted elections, there were leaders around that time. There was Binaisa, and then there was Lule, and then lastly there was Paul Mwanga Semogerere. That saw the transition period between when Amin was ousted and then the 1980 elections that brought Obote to power and eventually took Museveni to the bush. Because history says he told himself, if the elections are rigged, they are going to the bush. And indeed it happened. The election was contested, and then so many questions came up, and Museveni decided to go to the bush. When Obote took over power in 1980, that was Obote 2. Obote gets ousted again in 85 by Tito Okello. You can see the sequence of events. From 1962, this is already 85. There is no smooth transition of power that has happened. There has always been conflicts. Tito stays in power, tries to negotiate with the NRA, it doesn't work. By 86, Museveni comes and then takes over power. That is Uganda. So when you see that there is no smooth transition of power in Uganda, it did not begin with Museveni. There was a sequence. Look at Tanzania. 64, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere takes power. That is 1964, when Tanzania gets independence. By 85, he willingly gives power to Hassan Ali Mwinyi. That is 85. By 95, Hassan Ali Mwinyi gives power to Benjamin Mkapa. That is 95. 95, by 2005, Mkapa gives power to Jakaya Kikwete. By 2015, Kikwete gives power to Magufuli. No, by 2015, he gives power to Magufuli. And eventually, Magufuli dies in 2021, and then power goes to Suluhu. There's a sequence of power transition in Tanzania. You can see, right from independence. Look at Kenya. Jomo Kenyatta, the founding father. After that, he dies in 78. From 64 to 78, he gives power to Arab Terotich Moi. He runs the country for a little bit, a longer period of time. That you can explore history, or maybe you can discuss it another day, why he took a little bit longer in power. It was marred by a lot of contradictions, his regime. But that does not take out my point. After his reign, by 2002, he gives power to Mwai Kibaki. After Mwai Kibaki, in 2013, Uhuru, the son of the son of Uhuru Kenyatta, the son of Jomo Kenyatta, gets elected. And then as we talk now, we have they call him Kasongo, but I opt to call him with his real name, His Excellency Ruto. So you can see the sequence of events. But what Kenya has implanted in their politics that I want to cite is when Jomo Kenyatta came to power, there was a rift between him and Jaramogi Oginga. And then Jaramogi Oginga uses where he comes from in terms of the tribe as a constituency to mobilize, and it became a game of them against us. And that was a problem. That's why up to now Kenya has tribalism in their politics. It's part of their fabric, and they can't run away from it. And look at finally Congo. 1960, Congo gets independence. Kasavubu becomes the president, Lumumba becomes the prime minister. By 62 or 63, when Lumumba gets murdered, Kasavubu becomes the absolute leader. By 65, Mobutu Sese Seko comes and then overthrows Kasavubu. Things had already started changing. He runs the country for more than 3 decades. By 97, I think by 97, he gets overthrown by Laurent Kabila. By 2001, Laurent Kabila gets murdered, and then comes in the young Kabila, that is Joseph Kabila. That was when Congo started feeling a little bit of fresh air, and then they move into an election, and that's why today you see there's Tshisekedi in office. Much as there's conflict, but you can see that what began from the murder of Lumumba, it continued up to 2000, from 60 up to 2001 or 2002. That's when they started thinking of an election, and then there were peace agreements with rebels, and then later on they had an election that brought Tshisekedi into power. After he ruled the country from 2002, I think up to 2018 or 16, that was when he handed over power through an election. So what is the challenge to us as South Sudanese? I've told you all this briefly. We cannot go to nitty-gritties. To let you know that when you get independent from a country, whatever foundation you set will determine what course of direction you will take for the rest of the good years. From 60s, Congo experienced something different to date. Uganda from 62 up to now, they have not had a smooth transition. Not because they want, but no one has chosen to say, I want to transition power. Tanzania chose a different path. They are on the right trajectory up to now. Much as people criticize Suluhu, but it doesn't take out the point that they have a smooth transition of power normally. So our leaders who are in power, South Sudan, you sit in that office, know that 30 years or 50 years from now, what you choose to do now will determine how people will remember you, and it will determine what direction this country will take. Just read through, look at these countries, read deeper, find out all these details that I've told you. I've just given you a summary of what has happened in the sequence. Thank you for listening. God bless you. But from us South Sudanese, let's know that we have a lot to learn. In the region, we go to the continent, and then we go to the world. But I've just chosen the East African community where we can pick lessons from, because we are the youngest country. We could pick from Tanzania. We could pick some elements that are good in Uganda. We could pick some elements from Rwanda. We could pick some elements from Kenya. And then we see what can work in our context. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you.